Hey, what's up? It's Jim, and today I'm going to talk about Furiosa, a Mad Max saga. Mad Max, in total, as a franchise, is very unique in that every movie is different than the one before it, than the one after it. There are no repeat movies in the Mad Max films. There are certain characters that repeat, there's certain ideas that repeat, definitely all in a post-apocalyptic world and all that, but they don't repeat the same movie, which makes it actually a franchise I really like because of that. But Furiosa is probably its first direct sequel. They're sort of all known as tales and stories. I know sometimes there's a debate on the chronology of it. Even George Miller is loosey-goosey with it, so in my mind, it's like whatever. This one definitely takes place before Fury Road, but other than that, the first Mad Max definitely takes place first, because it's right as the world is collapsing. The rest, it's sort of like how you're feeling vibe-wise, I guess. It really doesn't matter. It doesn't change how you feel about it, except for this going into Fury Road, which is interesting. It is a different idea for these kind of movies, but much like how Fury Road was interesting because it was one long chase, and Road Warrior was different than Thunderdome, and blah, blah, blah. What I like about this is an epic story of a woman who, it's like an epic, a typical like big Hollywood epic where we see her go from a kid snatched from the Green Place by Dementus, who then has to kind of fight her way back, and with how she knows Immortan Joe and the War Boys and everything like that, and like how her life has been made in the wasteland since childhood, and how she very much wants to get out of it. And like most good prequels, actually, and I think this is a good prequel, makes even the film that it is setting up that much richer because of the backstory that you now actually understand. I do quite like the Mad Max films, but I do think this one, like all of them, is very unique and very different. I don't want to compare it to Fury Road because I think comparing them is a bad way to view these films, to be honest with you. Like, other than Thunderdome, but we're all beyond Thunderdome, so whatever. I compare it unfairly to Road Warrior, and I think a lot of people did. Not that Thunderdome's my least favorite anyway, but like, this one shouldn't be compared to Fury Road because I think it works as a different story to it, which I think is what I like about it. I like seeing Anya Taylor-Joy playing Furiosa and seeing her go from understanding Gastown and the Bullet Farm and the Citadel and her roles in them and how she grew up through it, but also how much like the one thing this is very much like Fury Road, and I think a lot of, if not all of the Mad Max films, they all work very well visually, and you could, I think various people have said you could put these films on mute and be able to follow them the entire time, and I feel that in it. I think this film is accentuated a bit because of Anya Taylor-Joy, because she has those like big, like Lillian Gish kind of eyes. Like, she has eyes like a silent film star. She is able to express things so well in this that I was shocked. Like, the famous shot is in the trailers and promotional material of like her and the fires all behind her. Like, that's a shot. I mean, not the fire in the post-apocalyptic thing, but that's the kind of shot that Lillian Gish would do. That's the kind of shot you'd have a Mary Pickford or a silent film actress do, and express so well. I mean, I think these are the kind of films that are like, like George Miller himself is very influenced by Buster Keaton and Harold Lloyd and the big silent film comedians, but I think they are great silent film actors, and I think he needs a great silent film actor, particularly in his lead. Whether, people always make a big deal, oh, they don't say much in these movies. Like, yeah, well, they don't need to say much in those movies, but if you need to not say much in those movies, you need to have someone who can express and talk to the audience without saying anything, and I think she's a great choice for that. But I also think George Miller knows how to use that and use his frame in such a way, because showing, actually this is probably a little more like silent film than Fury Road. I think that film would have destroyed all of Hollywood then, because those were epics. Those were like, oh, I lost my innocence, and through the ways of the world and industrialization and so forth. But it is through the ways of the world how I've come out the other side and how sad that is, and depressing. And this is done in more of an allegorical and hopeful way. It's interesting how many of the Mad Max films, much as we talk about the apocalypse, they are films about hope, I think that this expresses it well, seeing her kind of, with her first shitty boyfriend, Dementis, and then seeing her with Praetorian Jack, who I really like that relationship, and I liked how you saw her learn. Praetorian Jack's sort of like the guy who actually teaches her things and has a good relationship with. There's sort of hints of romance. It depends on how you feel about that, but that's kind of the guy in the movie who you want her to be around, the kind of influence you want her to be with. Whereas Chris Hemsworth, I think, is he's this evil, pompous warlord, very over the top, but it's like what works with that kind of film. I don't really mind that. I thought, the nose is crazy, and I think Chris Hemsworth is eating scenery so much. He's playing the big, broad sort of character actor role I think he's wanted to play for a little bit, and doing it better than I think most of the post-big Marvel actors ever could, because he's just like glorious at it. He's really going for it, but I think craziness and unhinged kind of emotions is perfect for a George Miller film, so it's sort of like game in that sense. But I don't know, I really do love these films, and I get into them, and I think one of the reasons I do get so into them is because they do feel like maximum like Western or samurai or like the lone warrior kind of films. And I think the thing with the lone warrior films is they aren't the same thing. And I think George Miller's able to show you how, yes, it is the same, the chase is one version, the kind of Yojimbo character in Road Warrior, the guy in Thunderdome, I guess, or the cop looking for revenge in the first one. These are exploitation-y ways he's doing it, but he's showing the visual simplicity and the smartness he's learned through his filmmaking to twist that genre when he needs to. And I think Furiosa shows the epic tale of someone who becomes the great warrior that we know. It is a prequel, but I do think it is the story of how someone became a legend and why they became a legend, and I think that is part of what makes legends. You print the legend, you don't print the truth. I like that about this film. I saw it on a big screen, thankfully, and it's a wonderful film to see on the big screen. There's everything there, it's so much clarity, and the sound is amazing, and the fight that took 70 some people all these days to shoot, and seeing Anya Taylor-Joy's in the bullet farm sequences with her driving and with everything they're running from, and I really was so happy with this movie. I think it is a worthy addition to that franchise. I'm kind of disappointed that so many reviews are like, well, it's not Fury Road. I'm like, well, your mom's not Fury Road either, but we all put up with it. I mean, I don't understand this comparison all the time. I came into this knowing that no Mad Max film is the same as the other one, and I came into Fury Road thinking, well, no Mad Max film can be like The Road Warrior. So I think you sort of have to open up a bit. I'm a little disappointed in that, but I do think seeing someone become who they are through this vast post-apocalyptic wasteland is still very fascinating. I think especially the way George Miller does it, because so much of Anya Taylor-Joy's character of Furiosa is the hope that you can get somewhere, and that you can beat this, and that you can figure it out, and you will beat the odds. And I think there is compellingness to a hero like that. I think a lot of times we talk about hope in superheroes like Superman or something, but it's different when it's so on the heart of your sleeve. I think George Miller does do that, but he does in such grim circumstances. It's almost like a contradiction in itself that it exists, but you fall into it so well. I really always find these films compelling. I don't even like, I just get so wrapped up in them. I think they're so immediate in terms of a film experience that I never really question the logic or anything. I just feel so wrapped up in the whole thing. I understand the comparisons in certain regards and stuff, but I think Furiosa showcases what always works about these films, which is like seeing a lone warrior kind of survive. And I think because this is not about a lone warrior existing in another adventure, which is pretty much the other three, most of the movies and so forth. This is about a hero becoming who they are, but in a sense, like, that is what's so great about them. That is what's great. If there is a genre of this franchise, the genre of the franchise it is undefinable genre-wise. It is not the same movie. It's not like a James Bond film. It's not like a Halloween film. It doesn't have to hit those beats. The most it has to do is like, is there a car? Is everything gone because of post-apocalypse and stuff? Okay, and that's like as much as you get, really. And I think it lives up to those things. I really think it does. I think it's a maximum film experience. I think it has great performances. It shows how airtight of a filmmaker George Miller absolutely is. I wonder if this is the last one or he gets to make Mad Max The Wasteland. I mean, supposedly this was done since they were taking so long to make Fury Road, it all came together, and you can get a sense that this was still labored over. I think it is, seeing the labored overness of Fury Road next to this, yes, it is disappointing, but I didn't expect that. So if you don't expect that, then you shouldn't be disappointed. And I still find it unrealistic. But I do think this is the kind of silent film maximum framing kind of George Miller that I want, and the kind of stories I want from him and I love from him, the guy who loves stories and storytelling in the way he does. This is an epic story. This is his version of an epic story through the post-apocalyptic wasteland. And if you are down for that, I think he does a great job. It's probably one of the best epics I've seen in a very long time, to be honest with you. I think most epics get a little boring, and I'm like, why do I care about this? I guess people are into it, and there's a thing. It's I never had that thing with it. It all made sense. I know he's the chapters and things, and he breaks it up, but it doesn't feel like this dodgy epic thing, even though I think it is over 2 hours and so forth, but it really doesn't feel it. It really works in such a pop cinema perfect way, but almost feels like, just perfect cinema storytelling, which I think is true of all the Mad Max films. Sure, maybe it's not as good as Road Warrior or Fury Road or the best of the franchise, but I think this is a solid entry. I would love to see more Furiosa, frankly, and I love what George Miller's done with this franchise, starting from a huge indie film hit to, an over $100 million big blockbuster is pretty insane, and that he's able to keep up the quality to such a degree as he's directed them all is pretty amazing. Kind of a hero becoming themselves in the best prequel sense, but also I think shows you the hope that we all have as we have tons of evils of the world slaying at us, and hopefully you can come out the other side. And I think that's it's both inspirational and very hard to look away and not get wrapped up in. It's a fantastical world, also showing you the morals that you hope we all have while watching someone do an insane action sequence with weird flying fan people and monsters in the back and twisting things at the end of the war rig. It's all there. It's all the maximum insanity of George Miller. But at the end, it's this is an allegory for us all to have hope in the end. And I think that's there's a sort of beauty to that, but there's a disappointingness knowing how much he gets wrecked by that wasteland, and the contradiction of those things what continues to make this franchise as special as it is, and I think makes Furiosa the kind of huge statement of an epic that this film is, which I think George Miller is always good at making the genre of the lone gunman, the lone samurai, the lone road warrior, and showing how it is just as powerful as those. And I think how we continue to be fascinated by those allegories, and I think will continue to be long after this one. So if you have seen Furiosa, a Mad Max saga, and you would like to talk about it, then comment below in the comments and subscribe if you would like to.